Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hey, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. You know the websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com. I have a frog in my throat. Feel free to tune in and go to FamilyPetAncestry.com, which I bought on a lark. Anyway, $100 lark, because I think it's good for 5 years. I really thought it would be funny for 5 years. Anyway, you've tuned into the show. Maybe you found it via DorkForest.com. Maybe you found it via AllThingsComedy.com, the Al Madrigal Bill Burr helmed podcast network, which is super fun and has 1 million podcasts. If you are looking for more podcasts of a comedy nature, browse the hell out of allthingscomedy.com. Our special is still available there for a $5 download. You can link it through me because I don't know what their link is anymore. It used to be allthingsrecords.com/JackieCation. Might still be that. I think you'd have to not cap Jackie Cation. This promises to be the longest intro ever. I'm in New York for this episode, and it's a great episode. I had a lovely time there. And the credits, let's do them. Patrick Brady, going to fix this audio. Hooray. And we had lunch in New York. Very nice. And then Mike Ruekberg composed and sang the opening song. He'll sing again, the Mexican Hat Dance, at the end. And Vilmos fixes my website, JackieCation.com. On my website, there's a banner for Amazon. And if you ever order from Amazon, and everyone does, go use it as a portal, go to Amazon, make your regular order, and they're proud of me, monetarily. Speaking of which, you can also just order merch from JackieCation.com. You can get a Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirt that my nephew Salmon Beemel Benrud designed many years ago, 5-6 years ago, and or a Dork Forest t-shirt that Brett Chambers designed, who lives in Portland, Oregon. Fan art, beautiful. You can get my new CD or DVD of that show. This Will Make an Excellent Horcrux. That's available on All Things Comedy. You can get one of my old albums. You can combo it up and save. And that's all available on JackieCation.com. You can order a hoodie. I have some in stock. The zip hoodies that say Dork Forest, Dork on Dork Dialogue. And that's the merch talk. There's also a donation button. It's February. So if you enjoy the show, feel free to donate $10 a month for 10 months. I have not made that easy for you by setting up any sort of recurring thing, mostly because I don't like recurring things. I know it's easy. Many people have sent me, hey, it's super easy. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like the idea of things just being removed from my bank account. So you have to, if you like the show and you want to donate $10 a month, that'd be great. You can also donate $100 a year, which is super fan status. All that really gets you is me sending you a sticker, possibly a trinket of another sort, and a thank you card, because I was raised right. What the heck? Comedy. I do stand-up comedy. If you get a chance, you should come see it. My podcast is just me talking to people about what they love, but my stand-up comedy is comedy. It's stand-up comedy. It is February 10th, 2015, and so I am in Los Angeles until I'm not, until the 21st of February, when I am doing a show at the Vancouver Comedy Festival with Maria Bamford, and also something called The Debaters. That's right, where I will hold forth, I will opine about something that I probably know very little about. And then I'm going with her as well, Maria, to Zanies in Nashville, the 24th and 25th. And then I'm doing 4 crazy dates with Brian Regan again, and his awesome fans. Tucson, Arizona, San Francisco, Brian Regan at the Masonic, the Music Hall in Tucson, the Masonic in San Francisco, the Dolby Theater here in Los Angeles, and then somewhere fancy in Flagstaff, Arizona. Yes, there's somewhere fancy in Flagstaff. Anyway, the longest of all messages. You may email me and tell me that this was too long at JackieCation.com, but let's get into it.
At RBC Wealth Management, social responsibility starts at the top. As a part of the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC has been recognized among the world's financial, social, and environmental corporate leaders. Our sense of responsibility extends to our reputation for putting clients' interests first. My personal commitment is to help you achieve your financial goals by also considering sustainable and responsible investing strategies. To learn more, visit www.darlacashin.com. RBC Wealth Management, a division of RBC Capital Markets, LLC. Member NYSE, FINRA, SIPC.
Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I am in New York City, and I'm sitting here with Sean Crespo, stand-up comic, writer, at Sean Crespo, spelled like scene.
Scene. Shan, son of God.
Son of God.
Child of God, I think is
Child
what
of
it means.
God. Son of God.
Son
That
of
seems
God's a little.
glossy.
Jesus is the other, what it translates to in the Aramaic.
Right. That's less,
Jesus Crespo.
exactly. So at Sean Crespo on the Twitter,
On the
and then
Twitter.
you have Crespo Hartzell.tumblr
Yeah.
for you and Carol Hartzell, your lovely and talented wife.
My
as
wife,
well,
my creative partner.
and also a comic. And
She's a writer and a producer and a sometime
did she
performer.
do stand up?
She did a bunch of bits on. She was doing for a few years. She
Like
was doing
sketchy stuff, or-
Yeah.
Oh,
And
character?
a lot of the time with me, like
Oh,
in
nice.
a yeah.
Okay. So you were like, "We're going on stage now."
I was like,
don't know if you
sweetie,
know this.
don't be afraid. And she's like pooping in the corner. It's like, oh, what do I say? Well, we wrote it down. You memorized it. Just remember that you memorized it, and then it'll all be fine. She did great.
Say it out loud.
Yeah,
You're
she's
good.
a pro.
You're good.
She's not a pro.
No. And
She's actually, what am I saying? She's not a pro, but she behaved like one for the few years she was performing.
right, and she did her damnedest.
Yeah,
much
yeah.
like we all do.
Yep.
So here's what happened.
Yeah.
There was a squeaky door that I'm staying in this apartment, and
This is the last dork force. We are about to be murdered.
I want to just take the only oil. I can't find any WD-40. Turns out there are stores full of it. But
The WD-40?
of WD-40, I could just go to the store and buy some WD-40.
Oh, I thought you said WD-40, like as in the company that made it folded. I was like, how is there not a call for oil?
Oh, no.
All right.
The actual oil itself, there's none in this apartment. So I could go buy some, or I could just use some of that spray canola oil that's in the cupboard.
That does the trick.
It will do the trick.
It won't last as long, but you know,
Right.
you're only here for a bit.
I'm here for another 4 days.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. And it's really super loud. So
It
you
is-
would think that either this apartment or the one across the hall, which are the only two apartments, I think.
Oh yeah, no, the stairs open up into two apartments. You'll get like, but if you just, by the way, if you do, because I've done that before and was like, hey, why do I suddenly have ants? You might get ants.
Oh, my God, ants.
You might, because that is
But I
a
will not do it because I fucking loathe ants. No offense to the
no.
people who
Hey,
love ants.
you know, my dad was a spider.
Was an ant.
No, I get it though. I get it. Well, there's a lot of bigotry towards them.
So, Sean Crespo, you and I are in the green room, and I am trying to write a book about the drought. I'm trying to write a joke. I still have a cold. I'm trying to write a joke about the drought in California versus the non-drought here, and I want to reference the book Dune, but I can't remember the name of Muad'Dib, and so I put it out there to the whole green room, and you head whips around super fast.
Wait, I can tell you the name. Paul Atreides.
You're talking about Paul Atreides, is what you said to me, and I was
did.
like, and now we should do a Dork Forest.
Yeah. Oh no, we are here. Yeah.
When did you read the Dune books?
Oh, I read. I mean, you know, I think a lot of us probably start reading books like that at the same age and then just never stop. So I can't pinpoint an actual. I think
were you junior high-ish? Was it 12, 13?
somewhere around there. My mom was a waitress growing up, and she like would just read voraciously on her breaks, and so she had basically every Stephen King book ever written. So I grew up reading the what was it, The Talisman, and a bunch of his short stories written. The Jaunt was one of them, and all those gunslinger books.
Okay.
Or the first one, because he hadn't written all the rest of them.
And are those appropriate for children?
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, it's not, you know. I would say like I would say like the Lovecraft stuff that we might talk about later is way less appropriate. I didn't read that till much later, but this is like, you know, it's Stephen King. It's scary shit. There's like a bubbly monster that is going to suck you under and do bubbly monster shit to you.
Oh, and that seems 12-ish.
Yeah, and all the rest of his books have like, you know, a magical 12-year-old boy or girl who is assisted by others. It's like a classic Hero of a Thousand Faces journey with him.
Okay, and then the coming of age kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like that?
A lot of that like on the cusp. So it felt good.
I've never been able to finish a Stephen King novel.
It's, you know,
there's so many of them, and I love his son Joe Hill.
Oh yeah, Ghost. What was it?
Lock and Key.
Locking.
The graphic novel he wrote was Lock and Key.
Heart in the. What was the heart-shaped locket?
Heart-shaped locket?
Is that what it's called? I'm bad with titles.
Fair enough.
I'm going to get through. Oh, yeah, the Stephen King's book, Standing Up. You mean The Stand? yeah, that one. What?
Right. So that's what, but because I didn't read Dune until after college.
Oh, really?
Or during college. Yeah, because I hadn't read any science fiction. I didn't read Lord of the Rings until I was 19, almost 19.
Oh, what were you? Well, let me ask you this: what were you like?
I was reading a bunch of other crap.
But literature, were you one of those smart kids who just knew, hey, I should be reading the classics and like them?
No. I read everything assigned to me, and it was annoying.
Yeah.
But I did it, and then I read a lot. I read I've read all of Louis L'Amour novels.
Oh, really?
I read a lot of historical fiction.
Uh-huh.
I read a lot of Civil War historical fiction. And
like,
I read, there's a guy named Joseph A. Altshuler who wrote in the early 1900s, who clearly was born right after the Civil War and it was glorified for him. Mm-hmm. And so he wrote a series of boys' books about the Civil War, about the French and Indian War, about World War I.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're like, hey, I've imagined what it was like to be a 17-year-old Union soldier on the way to do whatever, not what if the South had won.
No. It was not speculative.
Okay.
It was essentially a story of two cousins. One fought for the South, one fought for the North.
All right, yeah.
And
which
they
happens.
were called boys' books back in the time because they were just essentially the story of young men doing daring do.
Yeah.
And kind of piratey kind of stuff. So and they were just giant nerds, these two cousins. And one of them, and they were very well written. They're available on Kindle for free. Because
they've been around forever.
What?
Because they've been around forever and just nobody's getting them.
They're in domain.
I've never read any of those. I would love to.
They're so, you know what? They're very, very sweet. And then, so I was reading that. And then when I got my first job, which was, my stepmom was a hairdresser. And so I would clean the brushes and stuff and sweep up and stuff. And she would give me like $10. And
that's amazing, though.
And then I'd go across the street. Yeah, when you're 12.
That's $1 million in kid money.
Yeah, I would buy these. I was reading a lot of war mercenary books about being a merc in Africa.
A merc! I would love to picture 12-year-old you just reading about mercs.
About mercs. Boy, do they want to leave Wisconsin. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how much.
You better take enough ammo to make that journey.
I was like, is there a way that Jackie Cation at 12 can join the service? I can't.
No, just keep pulling the hair out of the brush, sweetie.
Let me in on the fact that I could just leave town. I didn't have to join the service.
Yeah, you know what? There's not a bubble. It's not Dome by Stephen King.
The Dome.
Under the Dome. Under the Dome. I got it wrong again. Oh, God.
That was a short-lived TV show, Under the Dome.
Yeah.
And there was also a Luna Brothers graphic novel called Girls that was amazing about a dome with these nakedy girls that wanted to sleep with all the rednecks in town so that they could have giant eggs. And
I feel like I want to interview you now because I want to find out about all this shit. I've never heard of that.
Oh, Luna Brothers Girls is a great series. And when Under the Dome came up, I was like, oh, somebody reads comic books and then rips shit off.
Oh, yeah.
And which, of course, happens all the time.
Good luck tracing this source material.
Exactly. So I didn't read Dune until I was 19 because my brother turned me on to Lord of the Rings and then Dune and then Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And then his wife turned me on to Dragon Riders of Pern, that horrible leper series with that asshat he had leprosy.
I don't remember.
Not Neil Stephenson. He wrote Zodiac and Snow Crash.
Hadn't read those.
But the other guy, who's Neil somebody else, or
Stevenson.
No, Stephen Donaldson. That's his name.
Stephen Donaldson.
Stephen Donaldson wrote a series about a guy who essentially, when he takes a lot of drugs, he goes into a parallel universe where he doesn't have leprosy. And he's like a messiah character. And he's super sad sack about it because he's like, no, I've got leprosy. And everyone in that world is like, you don't hear, you might want to get over it. And he never does, as far as I could tell, because I read 4 of them, and I was like, I'm done.
This is about a journey of a man who doesn't take a personal internal journey. He's just sad.
I think I must have, because there are people who love those books.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I missing?
It's because they read it at a certain time in their lives. We're like, I understand.
I get it, man.
I have acne.
Oh, right.
I feel like I'm going to be like that.
You know what? There might have been a window, like Hitchhikers.
Yeah.
I have a theory that if you read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy too late,
Yeah,
after you've
it doesn't.
already-
Yeah,
It doesn't resonate quite as
I had a
much.
physics teacher in high school who was like, "You haven't read this?" At ninth grade, he was like, "Read it," and oh god, so
Just
good.
absorbed it because
Yeah.
you're like, sarcasm. This is the greatest invention ever.
Yeah, somebody can do it well, and then you find out he's English, and it blows your mind
blows your mind.
you're tiny. When I first read Catch 22, I couldn't believe something could be written that funny from
right.
about that era. And, that long ago, I was shocked. I was like,
Yeah.
I am gut busting laughing about Yossarian,
Yeah.
which, by the way, if you want to find me online to play Halo with, my handle is PVT Yossarian. So please.
PVT, like private?
Private.
Private Yossarian?
Yeah, there wasn't enough room for private.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And Halo?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so-
only play Halo. Sorry.
So here's the thing. So you read Dune,
Yeah.
and your mind is blown.
Well, blown not because it was so amazing, but and it is,
Yeah.
but blown because it's too much for a young person to take in. It's one of those books where you can say Dune is about anything. Like you can write your thesis on whatever fucking topic.
And 5 different people
Yeah,
can write
Dune's
that.
about gender. Dune's about politics. Dune's about wealth inequality. Dune's about religion. Dune's about all of those things. That's why it's so amazing and so difficult to get a handle on.
Yeah.
And it's also why, I often tell people Dune is like the Lord of the Rings of science fiction. The one book. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people have a lot of other feelings about
the series?
the other 5 books,
Yeah.
and they're all.
I
wrong.
made it through the 3rd. And then I
Should be
was like
Paul of Dune or
what-
Children of Dune or Messiah of Dune.
When it was, I think when they got water, I was like, well, now you've ruined it.
Yeah.
And
Well, you could say Dune's about ecology. I brought a photo of the order of the books.
Oh, did you know?
Just so we can, if we need to refer to it, we know
Sure.
what we're talking about. We don't want to be stuck out here not knowing
not knowing things.
what's going on.
But what it blew my mind to some extent. Like I read it once. I haven't reread it. Do you reread it a lot?
I read it. I will reread it. It's one of those books that goes in your library, right?
Yep.
But it's like one of 12. So I have all the books.
Right.
I have them all on a shelf, but I'll take down one. I'll read every few years. I'll read Dune every
Right.
3 or 4 years, and then I'll be like, you know what? I should just read the whole series again. And that's like,
Yeah.
And then you're stuck reading that for 3 months. It's a lot of books to ply through.
It's a lot of and you weed off and you're just like
Yeah, you take a break. Like I'll take a break. I'll go read. I'm reading. I read this series of books called The Culture. Series
Ian
of books.
Banks?
Oh, you know Ian Banks? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've only read 2 of them because they're super dense.
They're
But they're
great.
Andy's favorite author. He's
Are you
his
serious?
Favorite author, yeah.
Oh my God, Poor guy who died.
Yeah, he just passed away.
Last
Cancer,
year, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and but incredibly prolific.
Yeah, it was another take on super far in the future technology and civilization. It was,
Yeah, it is Dune-like though. He is.
Well, it's like it, but also in a way the polar opposite, right? Because Dune is all about, hey, we don't have any thinking computers or machines that do shit for us. It's mostly about the people. Yeah.
And mystical and giant sandworms.
Yeah, and culture is just the opposite. It's like the computers are so smart, the humans can't possibly stand against them, but for some reason they are benevolent and we work together and it's a good symbiosis.
They're benevolent.
Yeah.
Robot overlords.
Yeah.
And, and they all have personalities and names and hilarious.
They're super cool. Their ship names are a little hashtag game.
Yeah.
On Ian Banks' anniversary, it was like, what's your culture ship name and designation?
Oh, that's awesome.
And 3 people replied. It was like, come on!
Nobody's reading these. They're everywhere.
They're so good.
They're really, really good.
Yeah.
And so I remember reading it and I think when I first read it, I reread it almost immediately.
Yeah.
But I haven't read it in years.
Yeah.
So it's Paul Atreides he's royalty on this other planet, right?
On Caladan or Arrakis?
On Caladan.
Okay, so just a real quick, previously on Dune. So Duke Leto Atreides is the Duke of Caladan, this water planet, right? And he and his concubine, who is the secret daughter of Baron Harkonnen, by the way, Jessica. What? Yeah. So it's all part of the Bene Gesserit breeding program. So they get the CHOAM contract, which is the company that mines the sand and,
and
is
the
like the
spice.
stock market of the day.
Yeah?
Yeah, they mine the spice. They get the contract to take over Arrakis and mine the sand and everything, the spice. There's that door. Seriously. All right, we'll get some canola.
I don't think they can actually hear it.
No, that's fine.
But
But just so you know, everybody, the door did just squeak.
And the door is super loud.
Yeah, it's intense, but it's fine. We're going to get through this. We're going to be heroes.
It's all going to work.
So whatever, they go to the planet and they are.
No, back up here.
Yeah.
Because here's the things I never knew because I haven't read it enough.
Okay, let me break it down.
The
for you.
Leo Atreides is his dad. Is Paul
Yes.
Atreides' dad?
Yes.
And
By Jessica, who's his concubine, not his wife.
Not his wife.
Yes.
Does he have a wife?
There's a whole backstory that Herbert's son and another author
Nope.
had
I
to
will
flesh
not
out.
go to where Herbert's son goes.
I understand, but they based everything there. They're not as awesome as a writer, obviously, but
Yeah.
how can you expect
Did he
that?
have notes?
That's what they based everything. The story itself is based on Herbert's.
He did do a genealogy.
He's like, an actor who has like 10 lines in a show. Like they're going to create a backstory that goes back 20 years. Like you're never going to hear like how, hey, I was private number 7 and I was the guy looking for the coffee before the Nazis shot me in the head. You had no idea. I wrote my entire history back in Wisconsin and I had 4 dogs and they were a shepherd and a collie and blah.
Wow. And so he went that deep in.
Yeah. So it's all based on that. And it's, he had a wife. That he was supposed to marry this woman who was the oh my god. All right, I'm sorry. I'm like I'm a little like freaking out. All right, so the Landsrod, which is the nobility of the universe,
right.
It consists of a series of great houses, and to be a great house, you have to control an entire planet or planetary system. And one of the other great houses was House Ikaz, E-C-A-Z,
okay,
and this Duke Ikaz, had a daughter that he wanted to marry off to Muad'Dib's dad.
Okay.
And then there's another house, House Mauritani, which lived on the planet Grumman. This Duke Viscount Mauritani was a total dick and was in a feud with Ikaz. And as part of the feud, War of Assassins, Ikaz's daughter that he wanted to marry, Duke Leto Atreides, was assassinated, and then they tried it again, and he was married, and then there was a baby he had with that woman.
They killed the daughter?
They killed the daughter in this assassination, and then he married another one of Ikaz's daughter, his last
Leo
daughter.
Just married a different daughter.
A different Ikaz daughter, and then they managed to conceive, I think it was another Ikaz daughter, and then her mind was poisoned by a Harkonnen spy posing as a lady in waiting, and then
this is. I do remember it being super junior high, like super high schooly kind of. Like the drama
it's
of
too much.
It's like this is the curse of too much free time.
Yeah,
is a lot.
It's too many things to keep track of, and it's only because I've read all these stupid things a bunch of times.
But it's fascinating because that's the spinning that everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
So Jessica is a secret daughter of Harkonnen. She doesn't know it.
I think she knows it because she's also a Bene Gesserit, which is the Prana Bindu
and
order.
She's the one who decides that she's going to have a boy.
Yes, which is one of a lot of like Dune nerds will be like, that's a little weird that she's part of the order and like knows all this stuff and has total nerve and body impulse control, and yet she decides to do this thing.
Her character has been min-maxed. Is that what you're telling me?
A little like it's people are like, why would she do that when A, B, C, and D really mean like 99% chance he was going to do this, and it's never fully explained. But who fucking cares?
Why well, the thing is so did she not do it to make the Messiah? She
did it to give
because Leo
Leto a
wanted
son,
an heir.
Yeah.
She didn't do it to create the Kwisatz Haderach.
No, she was supposed to. She was supposed to be mated with what was his name? Afade Rutha, who was Baron Harkonnen's nephew, played by Sting.
Played by Sting in the crazy
movie.
Yeah,
she was supposed to fuck with him, and that was supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Well, who wants a Harkonnen Kwisatz Haderach?
It's just about gene markers, And here's another little tidbit. Don't know if you know the Padishah Emperor. He had a not an assistant, like an advisor, Count Fenring, I think was his name. He was a eunuch. He was a failed Kwisatz Haderach. Because of his genes came out all jumbly and fuckedy uppy. Right. He didn't have any junk downstairs, and so that's why he couldn't.
Oh, so he was a born eunuch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, supposedly, which means
he didn't screw up, and they're like, well, this didn't work. Let's cut off his balls.
I didn't foresee the part where you cut off my balls. I really wish that were part of this water of life thing.
Right, and then so. She thinks, welcome to New York. That might have just heard.
Honk, screech, gunshot, cat. Thank you, sound guy from Trading Places.
It's an episode of the movie Big. And, where he
Hey, what's this piano on the floor doing?
turn the TV up, and but what gripes me sometimes is trying to figure out, like, the whisper voices.
Oh, from the
Movie.
the control voice.
Yeah, what is that?
The
narrator. But
It's not. It's supposed to be. So the Bene Gesserit practice something called prana bindu, which is like it allows you total control over all your nerves. And one of the
is fear the mind killer?
That's the litany of fear.
Okay.
One of the things they have is called the weirding way. In the movie, in the 1986 movie, they just have wristwatches that shoot beams if you make the right noise. And have the prana bindu training. That's not what it's supposed to be, but like what it allows you to do is basically short distance teleportation for close in fighting. So you're basically invincible if you have prana bindu in the weirding way. Like if you're like the guy goes to throw a swing at you, like suddenly you're behind him and your neck's broken.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's because your mind is so strong in your nerves that you are able to control the perception of reality itself and therefore reality itself, and suddenly you have willed yourself to another spot.
Are the Bene
Gesserit?
The Bene Gesserit, are they trained in the weirding way?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
which is why they're so freaking spooky in the book.
Yeah, they're deadly and terrifying. They are horrifying, not horrifying, but like a horrifying enemy to have.
Right.
But they're also sort of dipshit meddlers that have gone too far and are also part of like you've just created drama.
They're trying to create a god, and then they don't have control over Paul Atreides.
Yeah, they want to create a god that they want to control, and Paul. A series of events leads Paul to take the water of life, right? So he's not supposed to. They couldn't really foresee that because their prescience isn't strong enough, and there were too many probability lines for them to like see where the nexus is.
Okay, so Paul Atreides is born as a boy, and he's not supposed to be. He's supposed to be a girl.
Well, and with another father.
With a different father, but Jessica decides to get pregnant, have a boy, because Leo Atreides needs an heir. Yeah. Now, she knows she might be creating the Muad'Dib or the Kwisatz Haderach.
There's a tiny possibility she has hope, but really, like the Kwisatz Haderach was probably a grandson away, like another generation. So they were like Fade and her were supposed to have a baby. That baby was almost definitely supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach. But if not, they have like several other gene lines that they've been fucking around with for 10,000 century years.
Right, that they were trying to create this.
So they had a few other options.
So that's why they let Paul grow up. That's why they didn't. Metal?
Yeah, and they were also like curious to see because once he passed the pain test and then the Gom Jabbar.
But he was because when we get into it, he is like 15, right?
Yeah, he's young.
He's young, but he's not a baby.
Well, he's been secretly trained by Jessica in the Bene Gesserit ways, so he's way stronger than the Gaius Helem Moham, who's the boss of the Bene Gesserits. She's the Reverend Mother. She wasn't totally expecting that, but found out from Jessica, you trained him? All right, let's.
Then I guess we got to stick his hand in the box.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Now, what's the box again?
The box is just a neural synthesizer. Like it creates the sensation of very specific pain.
Okay.
So that's why you see his hand on fire
in the movie.
Yeah, and one of the things I said earlier about like one of the surprise things that would have like tipped people off was like that Helena notices like, oh, he withstood more pain than anybody ever has. That should have been like, let's keep him here instead of sending him out into the world and letting him be an out of control Kwisatz Haderach if he turns into one.
Because the Kwisatz Haderach is not supposed to. It's not a Dune thing, right? It's not an Arrakis thing.
No.
It's a universal thing, right?
Yeah, it could. I mean,
what was it supposed to be?
The Kwisatz Haderach is just, I think, I forget what the literal translation means, but it's just somebody who can be in many places at many times. It's somebody who can foresee all probabilities and manipulate events towards the one they want.
Okay.
So
which is why they wanted to control it.
Yes, exactly. Which is why it's the ultimate hubris. They were trying to create this god creature
that then they could point at things.
Yeah, exactly. And then they would be in control because they felt the universe was disordered. But
so now, what did the spice do?
The spice.
What does the spice is a drug?
Yeah, it's a life enhancer, which is why they call it a geriatric. Okay. But it's also like it's a reality enhancing thing. So it gives like, fairly smart people a little tiny bit of prescience. So it's like a fun party trick for the super nobles.
Okay.
But they used to say like, you could buy a planet if you filled a suitcase with a spice. Like that would be the price of a plant. That's how valuable and rare it was.
Okay. Because it was only available on this one planet.
Yeah, at the time. I mean, later on it's available in several places. Like as the books go
right.
on.
They just start producing.
Yeah, they just have like a Starbucks. It's like
it's those, and the thing that produces it are those worms.
yeah. Which is why those guys are so, like the Fremen are so, and by the way, the Fremen are so crazy religious because of the Bene Gesserit. The Bene Gesserit have this thing called the Missiona Protectiva or something.
Okay.
And they've basically just spread mythos rumors around the universe, the primitive cultures of the planets within the Empire.
Okay.
To the primitives there, so that like 1,000 years later, if a Reverend Mother is in trouble, she can manipulate them and find out. What do you believe? Oh, you believe a star god is going to come and they will have wings? Like, oh, I'll wear my hair so it looks like I have wings.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they've been orchestrating this for 10,000 generations.
Yeah, in an amazing amount of time.
I vaguely remember that. So he just goes to Arrakis because he's on walkabout or something.
He goes with his dad because they get that Chom contract, but then
okay.
House Harkonnen is in league with House Carino, which is the Padishah Emperor.
Okay.
And the Padishah Emperor sends
an assassin, right, to kill Leo?
He sends an assassin, but they send waves of troops disguised as Harkonnens. The Emperor has these troops called the Sardaukar troops that are just like super soldiers.
Yeah.
Right? They're like the badasses of the day, but like the thing they don't really get to in the movie, or can't get to really, is that by that era, the Sardaukar are sort of like, they're okay. They're pretty badass, but they're not like at their peak, they would have been undefeatable. And that's why they get their asses kicked later by the Fremen.
Right, because the Fremen, first of all, it's their home turf.
Yeah. And they just grow up under the most horrific, dire, life winnowing circumstances.
Right.
Like living in Alphabet City in the 80s,
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to bring it to reality. I don't know why.
But what the weird thing is for me is that, because I'm trying to, so he goes with, does his dad get killed?
Yes, his dad is killed in
a Disney-like moment where he no longer has a parent.
He has, yeah.
Jessica, I remember the scene in the movie, and I remember the scene in the book when Paul Atreides has to fight the Fremen.
Well, the way they lose their they're almost all of House Atreides is almost entirely defeated. Although if you look at the movie, it looks like House Atreides has 150 soldiers instead of a planet's worth of armada. But they're betrayed by their doctor, who's Dr. Yui.
Okay.
Do you remember that? Like he replaces a tooth in Duke Leto's mouth with that if he bites down on it will release gas, and in exchange for allowing Jessica and Paul to live, he secrets them away to a ship and loosens their bonds. Duke Leto Atreides to bite down on the tooth when Baron Harkonnen gets close, blow the gas into the Baron's face, and that'll kill him. And that's Dr.
That's what is that what the Emperor wants? That's
what the Doctor wants, because the Doctor, and this is why this fucking book is so complicated. The Doctor was kidnapped by Peter de Vries, who is Baron Harkonnen's Mentat, which are human computers, which they have in that universe because no thinking computers are allowed due to the Butlerian Jihad. They broke his. It's called Sook conditioning. Dr. Sook, thousands of years ago, was this amazing doctor and set up the best medical training, and he was conditioned by the Imperials mentally to never be able to do harm. But Baron Harkonnen's, I'm having a meltdown, Baron. I've never had to think this hard about this.
This is the greatest. I can't even stop you. It's like, I just want to put another Nick, because the thing is there are so many layers to the damn book.
And you can't explain one without getting into the other 10, and then you're like, well, now I have to explain the other 10 for each of the other 10 layers.
Right. And so if someone hasn't read it, though, I would definitely we're not spoiling anything.
No, I mean,
it's almost impossible.
You won't remember this, yeah.
There's no way to. The thing is it is a coming of age story of this young man, and it is an action-packed, awesome book.
Yeah. There's mysticism, there's action, there's there's classic intrigue, and there's if you like that.
There's soap opera bullshit.
Yes,
everything is in this book, and it's in this book.
There's space, there's lasers, and the sort of lasers. There's sword fights. If you read the rest of the book, I mean, it's impressive.
There's giant fucking worms.
And that's before we get to the giant worms. There's all that.
Yes, and then he rides a goddamn.
He rides
worm.
a fucking worm. That's one of my favorite. Carol and I wrote this pilot called Alternate Side Parking that...
Alternate Side Parking?
Yeah, it's about two best friends who get run out of money, and it's sort of like a Broad City thing for 40-year-olds.
Okay.
Like they lose... If that shit kept going on and it got really, really sad, like if they lose all their money, they have to move into their car.
Yeah.
And Urbaniak's going to be like the bad guy in it, which will be fun.
James Urbaniak.
I know.
Friend of the show. Awesome
He's
dude.
everywhere.
The guy's everywhere.
He's fucking everywhere, but we have a lot of like... It's sort of like a... There's a very. Did you ever see Spaced? Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright show. It's a little spaced, like in that there are pop culture cutaways, and one of them is the two main characters mounting their shitty Mini Cooper, a la a worm in still suits.
Okay.
And then they just blow up the mailman with their weirding modules for no reason. So.
That is entirely written for you.
Yeah. No, it is very specific.
It's so specific.
Somebody want to buy it? Let us know.
Yeah, let somebody call in. But the crazy thing is so if Paul Atreides had never gone to Arrakis, if the whole Atreides clan and their troops had not gone there to
take over the spice mining.
Right. So clearly the Emperor wanted to destroy both of those families.
Yeah.
He found both of those families to be a threat.
Yes. Yeah.
So now what he has is he's destroyed the Atreides family mostly. And Harkonnen or no?
No. Basically something with that Mauritanian Ikaz family, the Emperor was involved in some of that shit diggery. And if the Atreides stick around till eventually it'll come out, and his assistant Count Fenring was like, come on, let's deal with it this way. So he thought he was going to give the Harkonnens with his Sardaukar troops would go in, fuck up the Atreides, they'd be gone forever.
Yeah.
Which they would have been if Dr. Yueh had not let Paul go.
Right.
And then was later reunited with one of the Atreides stalwarts, Duncan Idaho. And
Duncan Idaho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duncan Idaho.
Lived.
Who's actually, if you read to the very end of the books, with like the ones that his son and his partner wrote,
from every scrap of piece of paper that Herbert left lying around.
Well, if you read the fucking books that Herbert wrote are so like if you keep going, Paul's just a small part of the story. Like you get to the end of the movie and you're like, oh, it's all resolved. He's gonna lead to the universe to a better place.
Lord of the Rings.
Nope, it's not even close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even closely resolved. It's just like the
world is real. Because the world is that big.
Yeah. Yeah. He was getting to Paul got his shit together long enough to save the family and disrupt the empire the way it was. But the next stage of what happens, you read like 3 books in later, he was basically supposed to become a human sandworm hybrid and become the God Emperor of Doom, which is what one of his sons wound up doing. And Paul loses his...
I saw that picture on the cover of the 4th book, and I was like, wait, is that a dude on the cover on the face of a worm?
Yeah, it is.
That's
really
just
is.
Bad art. Is why it put me off.
A little smiley face, really? It looks like Smiley from Wormy from Sesame Street.
Don't ruin the book with the art. It's note to publishers.
Yeah.
I will put the book down, judging it on its own.
You're allowed to. This is America, Freedom Town.
It's just so hard to figure out how to pay for it all. So, the story isn't Paul.
It's just a nice. It's the struggle for Paul. The way it starts off with this struggle for Paul is
what's the huge reveal about Duncan Idaho?
Duncan Idaho Duncan Idaho turns out to be what Paul was supposed to be. They thought they were creating the ultimate Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah. But
the ultimate Kwisatz Haderach is you have the best. You have the A+. It turns out there's an A++ that was actually Duncan Idaho without anybody foreseeing this except
he was just training. Wasn't he a training guy?
Yeah, he was. But he was. They call them Golas. They're clones that can reclaim their genetic memory from the past versions of themselves. He was cloned and killed by Paul Atreides' son, who's the worm god emperor of Dune. 1,000 times. Then there's like 3,000 years of, it's called the Great Famine or something, and the scattering, and the human universe is sort of breaking up, and they've sent out all the different factions have sent out their groups to the universe at large to just plant the seed somewhere else. It doesn't look good. Plant the seed somewhere else. And then one of those groups encounters the thinking machines from the book that Frank hadn't even written.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why the Butlerian Jihad existed. That was all to stop the thinking machines. So those thinking machines were just out there millions of light years away, planning and building an armada of literally 1 million ships. And they're slowly coming back by the last book. And one of the thinking machines has stopped being just a machine and is more than just a machine. And Duncan, Idaho turns out to be more than just a man, and
so that's where the final battle is between those two.
The thinking machine is actually sort of on the side of it's called the Golden Path, which is avoiding stagnation of both. It's just avoiding stagnation, mental and cultural stagnation, so that there is something to live for, and that
evolution
we don't.
And moving forward and changing and evolving in the general word of the meaning of the word.
Yeah. Into something more than just what you are, because what's the point if you just stay? So this robot basically meshes with Duncan Idaho, who's the ultimate Kwisatz Haderach, and now he controls both machines and humans in a way. It's bananas. It's bananas.
It sounds kind of awesome.
It's great. I mean, again, like you said, like you don't, like a lot of people have.
It's the hump. I couldn't get over the third book. I think
hard.
I was just like, okay, well now everybody's got water. It's like the Fremen don't have to ride the because
they got a subway system. It's cool.
Yeah, whenever there's so many books that do that, where you're just like, well, you took away the thing that I liked. Like, did you read Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series?
No, what is that?
It's a beautiful book. Book 1, actually, and book 2, and then book 3. The mist is gone, and you're like, nope, loved the fucking mist.
It's called Mist.
Needed there to be mist, and the mist isn't good.
Does he bring it back at all?
I don't know.
Oh, you
I
stopped.
reading
Okay.
it because I was like, well, why such an asshat taking away my mist?
Yeah.
And the mist, there was trouble. I mean,
the mist is showing up is never good.
Right. The mist was a bit of an adversarial. There was trouble. So, and it got super religious because Brandon Sanderson is one of these young Mormon, one of the new brand of Orson Scott Card trained.
Oh, yeah.
Science fiction writers.
Catholic Church somehow survived.
Yeah. And, well, it's, he's got this plan to, the Mormons, like all groups.
Yeah.
All groups want to help within their group because that's who you're hanging out with.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm going to have a mentor program with young comics, right? Like I might be like, oh, that guy's a good guy. I'll tell the booker that guy's a good guy.
Yeah.
That kind of
That's awesome, by the way. If you were doing that, that's fucking amazing.
It can't hurt. Sometimes can't
I
help.
wish there had been that sort of thing when I was younger, and somebody had said, "Just wait till you're maybe 25 and know something of the world."
Oh, it's so hard to get up, So you just want to be of some. But the point, the weirdest thing about it is that there are probably a half a dozen, 3 or 4 great writers, and Brandon Sanderson is one of them.
Yeah,
and he's got to be 30 years old. And he wrote a book called Elantris.
I don't know.
Blessedly, one book, one story, but I bet
poured himself into it, you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was his first book. So I think the greatest thing about it is that I bet you there's an entire world that he has in notebook form.
Yeah, I bet.
With genealogies and backstories and what their puppies were when they were kids.
I think you sort of have to do that, don't you?
I think if you're going to create a world.
Yeah, because you're not writing a comedy book. You're not writing like a book of silly essays. It's not like Stephen Martin or John Hodgman have written a book and they had to spend they mapped out the thought process of each silly essay. They're just
yeah, it's not a series of essays.
Yeah.
It is a world where magic is real and lives are changed and there's 3 major religions.
Yeah.
So you're like, 3 major religions? Well, you have to invent those religions.
Yeah.
And then you have to invent those priests.
The traditions, the garb.
Give those priests backstories for the reason they became priests.
Yeah.
And that's Elantris.
Yeah.
And Elantris is it's a beautiful book. It actually, you would like it because it feels Dune-ish.
Have you ever read the Hyperion Cantos?
I read the first one with the Shrike.
Yeah. Because there's
terrifying.
That is a scary
That was
fucking
one of
creature.
the scariest fucking books I read, and I was like, and done.
Yeah, no, and you know what?
Couldn't do
You're
number 2.
totally fine to end it there, but as it goes on, it's very much about what we talk about when we talk about religion, sort of thing too. So it has that aspect. It's really real, and it has a small, tiny Catholic church that has somehow survived on one planet called Packham. And that later turns out to be, it's too much, but I'm so tired. I've never been this tired.
Well, that is the thing about podcasts that are different than stand-up, is that you're using a different part of your, like I literally, people are like, why wouldn't the show go, and I'm using literally wrong again.
Dude, I think we all should at this point.
We all should at this point.
Cover each other's tracks. Literally.
So, when I'm done with these things, I have to take a nap.
I bet.
Because I'm so focused on listening. People sometimes ask, why is the show only an hour? Why don't you just keep going? I was like, because everyone's tired. Everyone's tired about talking about the thing that they love.
Yeah.
You know, as much as Sully McCullough loves sneakers, there is an hour, maybe an hour and a half in sneaker talk.
Was that Sneakers the shoe or the movie?
Sneakers the shoe.
Okay, because I can come back for the movie.
Okay, it passed geese having a party.
Oh my God, David Strathairn. Have you seen the web series Carol and I are doing? Life Hacks with David Strathairn?
No.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Life Hacks with actor David Strathairn. I do a really good David Strathairn impression. And the whole they're each like a minute long. It's just.
And you have a web series?
Yeah, we're just.
We should plug that. We should tell people.
Oh, yeah. Life Hacks with it. But it's just him, and he's like this. He's David Strathairn. He's a venerable
character actor.
Like he's a beloved character actor from theater and film. This is so beneath him to do it. So we just thought it'd be so funny if he tried to do it, but didn't know what a life hack was. And he just keeps giving advice like, don't, the next time you think to watch the fantastic Mr. Ripley, maybe don't. It's a very intense film. But David, it's not a life hack at all.
Right.
It's just advice. Well, I don't know. It's very, your children.
Life hack.
Yeah.
What the fuck why do I not know what the word life hack is?
My wife was the comedy editor at Huffington Post for 5 years. Now she's working on another web thing. She's a web comedy producer at another thing. So that's the only reason I know. A life hack is because that's like, hey, if you grew up with the internet from day one, life hacks are boring and old hat. It's just like shortcuts.
Cheat code for
it's cheat codes for crap that you don't really need. Hey, you make your pasta in 3 minutes instead of 5.
Oh
you
my
cut
God,
it into
what are you doing
strips.
with that extra 2 minutes.
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah, it's like David Cross's the nuclear scissors. We don't. What are you gonna do with those 3 seconds at the end of your life?
Wow, I don't. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. The fiddlier the recipe, the more interested I am. I make a pork roast that takes 2 days to make.
Oh yeah.
It's really great. It's a North Carolina pulled pork that's really good, but it can take 2 or 3 days, and by the end of it, you're like, I don't even want pulled pork anymore.
That was enough.
I've been smelling mustard and vinegar for days.
Yeah, the journey was the destination. It's like, this is great. Yeah, Carol and I have a big green egg out back in our backyard because we live in New York City, and like most people, we have a garden and a backyard.
What?
Like most, we live with another couple, so we have like this crazy space.
It's amazing. You know, Aparna Nancherla, who I've been trying to get on the Dork Forest to talk about architecture, which is an awesome topic. Nobody's ever talked about.
That's deep.
That's crazy. Yeah, says the man who spent 40 minutes talking about the first book of.
Yeah, and we can keep going.
And we will.
Tell you about Norma Senva.
We'll weed off briefly. Just a little breather. People need to go get a soda.
Yeah, go take a poop break.
It's there's dark chocolate with the caramel, by the way. If you want to,
I might just. Well, you know what? I'll hold off till after because otherwise I'll be like, oh. Anyways,
yeah, no one wants to hear it. As a matter of fact, I get emails saying, "Why do you feed people during the thing?" Nobody wants to hear it.
It's Cracker Day here at Dork Forest. Oh.
The only one that anyone really complained about, for real, and it was many people. Some people have occasionally gone, "That's a lot with the nuts and the chocolate." Sometimes.
Yeah.
But the bad one was Matt Knutson brought a shrimp ring.
What?
Well, I was doing a bit about a shrimp ring.
Oh. All right.
And so he thought it was funny to show up with a shrimp.
It's funny.
And we literally, ate the entire fucking shrimp ring. And
that's
it must
great.
have been 36 shrimp, too. It was me, him, and I forget who the third person was. But because that person didn't bring a fucking shrimp ring, that's why I don't remember him.
I miss shrimp.
But
I
it
used to
was a
love
great episode. And it wasn't that great of an episode because all it is us
Crunch,
eating fucking
crunch. Yeah. I grew up in Boston. I used to love shrimp. Can't seafood. I can't eat any crustaceans. I'm that iodine.
Oh, okay. Oh, you had a reaction.
Yeah, it was bananas.
I'm having a, here's too much info. I'm having a reaction to refined sugar these days.
Oh, really?
It's fucking with my throat.
Oh shit!
And that's my moneymaker.
Are you checking? Yeah. Did you go to a doctor to see if it's like some weird? Is it an allergy?
No. This is what I've done is some self-diagnosis.
Good.
When
Always
when
safest.
I eat less
Yep.
refined sugar, my throat doesn't hurt so much,
Oh fuck!
and it doesn't get all scratchy. And I have one voice I do on. I have the dumb guy voice.
Yeah.
In jokes, and then I have an old man dumb guy voice. Those are the only two impressions I do. And I can't do the old man dumb guy voice when my throat is all scratchy.
Oh, that's half the voices. That's half of them. You can't do that. Yeah, it's like what if Patton lost the ability to do that shouty thing, or Bill Burr with a high voice, like Bill Burr's voice drops an octave. It's going to be weird.
That would be weird. It'd be.
It's not going to happen because Bill, you've gone through puberty, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All the shoes have dropped. That's my analogy. So
All shoes.
Let's talk Dune movies.
Sure.
Wasn't there a sci-fi?
I think I saw one of them.
Miniseries?
There were like two. There was one Sci-Fi did a miniseries, and then there was another one that Sci-Fi might also have done. That was they redid Dune as a miniseries, and then they did Children of Dune.
Was it SCI-FI or was it SF?
I think it was the old SCI.
Instead of SFY.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the SYFY.
SFY.
Yeah.
Like crazy people for no reason.
It's fine. Marketing.
Because 323-year-olds thought, it's hip, man.
Can you
Let's
imagine?
Just shorten it.
Yeah. What, purple? I don't know. 30 meetings took place over like the font.
Right. There was free salads galore.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of bottles of water.
Dude, I was a joke writer at an ad agency for like a year and a half for this one account.
Yeah.
And the belly of the beast. Some very nice people. Like, you can't believe, like, I went in there a little, like Bill Hicksy, like, fuck these people. And like, no, they're just fucking working. They're fucking have these jobs.
Everyone just has jobs.
The amount of masturbatory, utterly useless, going nowhere. Nobody's making a decision. This conversation has not progressed one half an inch meetings is mind blowing. And that is 90% of the business. The rest is like some guy in an editing room. Just making,
making decisions with no oversight.
Yeah, color correcting the Svedka cyber dog to make like, fuck it, he gets an orange top.
Yeah, that guy doesn't need any chest hair. I'm airbrushing it away.
Yeah.
It's all gone. And it's weird because the decisions that are real decisions don't seem to be, nobody's making them.
How do you take credit for anything in an ad agency when everybody is involved?
Every job is like that, though.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
whenever I watch someone, like when I was talking about this yesterday to somebody, I don't know, about when I went to any of those military tours. When you meet people who are in the military, you're like, oh, it's a job.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of job. I mean, they're if you run a drone or if you have a rifle, these are more intense.
Yeah.
But they're still like that American Sniper movie came out, and the guy.
I haven't seen it yet.
I didn't see it. I've just read a bunch of articles and people have opined.
Yeah.
And so let me opine some more without ever seeing it.
I will not opine about this.
It seems to be that because the interviews with the guy, I want to read the book more than see the movie, quite honestly, where he said that he liked the job. He didn't like the killing of people, and he was sad that, and he didn't regret doing his job well.
Yeah.
He regretted that his job was killing people, and that was what he was good at.
Yeah.
And imagine, and who I was talking to, I think it was Ron of Ron and Fez at XM Radio.
Yeah.
He asked me, he said, imagine if someone told you that stand-up comedy was actually evil and bad and wasn't good for people. You would still figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
And justify it.
That's true.
And I was like, oh my God, I was so would.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
Listen, there's a group of people. It's localized. It's fine. Yeah.
These people need me. I don't think you know.
Yeah. There's 50 to 300 people really want to, we talk, and we have a history, so it's fine. We have a history. No, that's like, that was like in, what was it? Not Game 6, but, the Red Sox movie. with
the
with
romantic
Jimmy
comedy
Fallon.
With Jimmy
With the
Fallon,
Tonight Show's Jimmy Fallon
and Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, they have in the movie. He has a realization, or with his friends, when they see Johnny Damon at a bar in Boston, and they go up and I think they ask for autographs, and they're pissed off that they're not more grateful to have fans. No, they're just watching them eat, and they're like, how can they fucking eat when so much is on the line?
Oh, right. They're
And
in
one
a
of them says,
restaurant, and
yeah.
and they're because
They're
it's
just
their
staring.
job.
Yeah, because it's their job. He's going to go to the Yankees. Maybe he's sad, but he can't control the entire industry.
Right.
He can't say, oh yeah, no, I'm one player and we should all have salary caps and we should be allowed to stay on our team for life.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck, because I want to play with my little league team until I die.
Yep.
That's a job too. That whole sport business.
Yeah.
And
You do lose track of that. There's so many things that feel so personal in this world, especially if you're,
if you're a spectator.
Yeah.
Well, especially and quite honestly, sometimes from the cheap seats.
Yeah.
When you look at the president or you look at congressmen, I don't want to, but if you look at them and you're just like, well, why aren't you doing the thing I want you to do? You have no idea what the job looks like from the inside. And
what negotiations, what compromises have to be made? They're not you tell somebody stand strong all you want, but poor Obama, who was already a centrist to begin with, he was just trying to push the country back from far right to maybe a little
more
maybe
middle.
Century.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, I thought he was going to be like this socialist hero. It's like, why? Why would you think that? He's
Right.
Talks about
we're going to need him, and then we're going to need Teddy Roosevelt again.
Yeah.
And then we're going to need Franklin Roosevelt again.
give it 3 generations of
Right.
2-term presidents. Seriously,
Right.
think to undo 3 generations of right-wing damage. So imagine all the compromise that dude has had to backdoor meetings and then he's not even, they turn their backs on him. They won't even make backdoor compromises with him half the time. So he's he looks like, you know what, this is worse than Dune. This is worse
It
than
is
Dune.
worse than Dune. So let's get back to Dune the movie.
Sure.
The only good scene in Dune the movie for me.
Father, Sleepers Awakened.
Oh, wait a minute. What is that scene?
When he wakes up after taking the water of life, and then
What is the water of life? I forget what the water of life is.
it's they drown a baby worm and the fluid.
Wait, is the water of life a Arrakis thing? Is it always an Arrakis thing?
Yeah, it's the water of life comes from when, and the Bene Gesserits use this to make their final transformation to Reverend Mothers. The water of life, they drown a baby
Arrakis
worm.
is a big deal in the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't always factor into it, but now that everybody's on spice, it's it was like the arrival of petrochemicals. Suddenly it's in everything.
Okay.
So it's no, you have, we cannot have a civilization as we know it without petrochemicals.
Right.
Or some genius makes a substitute that's just as functional.
Right.
So, but you drown a baby worm, and the death fluid is called the water of life, and that it's a poison that brings about a transformation.
It's a marinated worm juice, essentially?
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Because a worm died in that.
A baby worm.
A baby worm, it adds some sort of magical properties to it.
Yeah, there's a whole biology with the sand trouts, that.
Sand trout?
Yeah, they're
Is that a fish?
It's a sand fish.
Okay.
And they're like sand manta rays, basically.
Okay.
Atreides, Paul's son, who becomes the God Emperor, he's being attacked, and he basically realizes he has to make the difficult choice his dad wouldn't, and he covers himself in these sand trout that are because they're basically they become the way worms become worms. They're super strong, super powerful, super heat resistant, and they're trying to shoot lasers at him, and they're just he's absorbing them all, and he's fine, and he's able to live, but they change your biology, makes him into the worm man.
The worm guy.
Yeah. But yeah, the water of life is when the Reverend Mothers drink it, they have to transmute the actual molecule by molecule, the chemical, into something not poisonous, and therefore prove they have total control of their body.
Okay.
Yeah, and still a lot of them die.
So what they have to do is they have to drink poison.
Yes.
And transform it into not poison.
Yep.
With the power of their minds.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they are trained to do this from a tiny child.
Yeah, they're Bene
They are
Gesserits
given iocane powder.
Yes, exactly.
As they go along.
It's odorless, colorless, and non-transmutable. Good luck.
So Paul Atreides does the water of life.
And men don't take it. Men can't become Bene Gesserits except the Kwisatz Haderach, basically.
Yeah.
So when he transmutes, men can't do it because it kills them, because they're not allowed to see into the ego memories of both genders.
Okay.
So when the Reverend Mother takes the water of life, she has the living memories of every single one of her ancestors, thousands and thousands back to to Agamemnon.
Yeah.
Or not Agamemnon. Who's Agamemnon's wife? But
right.
But
what was Agamemnon's wife?
Is she the one that killed her 2 kids? Was she the one who was like
who went crazy?
To spite? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it fed Agamemnon the dirt.
Somebody call in. If somebody could call in.
If somebody could shout at their iPod right
now, and you will, when you're hearing this in the future.
I will look that up because I almost studied classics, which means that I almost cared enough to memorize that. Anyway.
Thank God for Wikipedia. Wikipedia should offer a master's degree.
I'm going to need a second source.
Yeah.
So
good luck.
But
yeah, so that's
when Paul Atreides takes the water of life,
he can hear the memories of both gender lines throughout all of history and has access to far more information.
Because the women only hear back the women's
female
line.
Yeah.
So he can do both men and women.
Yeah, that's what Paul's saying when Paul takes the water of life in the movie and says says afterwards, and he says to Reverend Helena, he says, "I have been to that place you cannot look into," or something like that. I forget what the line is. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the place that only a male can go, and only because he's a Kwisatz Haderach.
Oh, right.
So,
and only him himself.
Yeah, the whole voice thing is really creepy too, because they can talk to any one of their memories like it's a holodeck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they just have a conversation.
Yeah.
Remember that pulled pork recipe? My grandmother. Could I get that?
What spice did you use, General Lee?
Exactly. Is a tablespoon 2 teaspoons?
Well, Paul, while I'm a big cinnamon man, I like a little spice in my pork. All right, I gotta go destroy some enemies. I'll be right back, General Lee. Yeah, that's his sister Alia. Do you remember the movie, his sister Alia?
She was tiny.
She was born, Paul's mom was forced to take the water of life to become the Sayadina of the Fremen Siege that had rescued them, but then threatened to kill them. And she was pregnant with the daughter, and that daughter became a fetus Reverend Mother.
That's right. She was an abomination to the
Bene Gesserit. And what they mean by abomination is that you need the full Bene Gesserit Prana Bindu neural control training, a lifetime's worth of it, to avoid falling prey to the madness of listening to tens of thousands of your ancestors, all of whom will be clamoring to take center stage in your consciousness.
Okay.
So,
and how did Alia deal with that? I can't remember.
3 books into it, she's basically makes a deal with the Baron Harkonnen ancestor to shut up the others and she'll share a little bit of her consciousness, but eventually the Baron Harkonnen ego takes over. And
she becomes evil?
She becomes evil, and eventually she regains just enough control to throw herself out a window and die. So it's, happy ending.
Oh, happy ending. Excellent.
Happy endings. The heroes of the first book in the movie that we all love just turn out to be total D-bags 2 books in. Paul's like a pussy who wusses out and gets blinded and goes into the desert to die like Fremen do when they're blinded or wounded too badly. And Alia succumbs to this temptation, leaving all the burden on both of Paul's kids.
And so, but Paul has 2 kids. Are they both one boy, one girl?
Yeah, Leto and Ganima.
Okay.
Ganima.
And so Leto becomes the God Emperor.
Yeah, and you know what? He and his sister, there's this really sweet scene in the book where they're talking about which one of them could it be, because I think it was the probability was open that it could be one or the other, and some small thing tilted it for Leto to say, you know what, I'll do it. It makes more sense that because this person and we have to convince them to do this. You go off and live this.
Be diplomatic, and I'll be a giant worm.
Yeah, I mean, you'll still be like this amazing fucking messianic creature, but I'm going to be this messianic monster, God monster, who lives for 5,000 years or something.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
How does he hold court? Because he's big.
He's huge. I mean, he kills a lot of people. He's over the 5,000 years, he's made the entire universe dependent on his whim because he built up this massive stockpile of the spice and then started seriously terraforming Dune. So there was a lot less spice because of all the water and shit and fewer worms. Mm-hmm. And so there's a shortage and everybody's like, more spice, more spice, more spice. But it's all part of his plan called the Golden Path to keep, that only he can see that far into the future about. And he knows like at a certain point he's going to die and blah, 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 blah. But it's like,
does he have kids before he becomes a worm or does it go down on Gamera's side? What's her name? Not Gamera.
Ganima or Gamina. I forget. But no, he has no kids. He's just the God Emperor of Dune.
And so essentially the last books are entirely about him.
No, he's around for God Emperor of Dune. I think that's it. But his legacy, the other books are like sort of shift. One's way more about the Bene Gesserits and their chapter house. Okay. And another one really spends a lot more time on the Tleilaxu, who are like, I know, dude. I know. But it's like that's another fucking thing we haven't even talked about, and they're like one of the main drivers of the whole fucking plot.
What are they?
The Bene Tleilaxu. Ugh, fuck you words. They're basically they went a different path with how to create, manipulate the world, and they're genetic manipulators and masters of. Totally different. But
a different way.
They look like sharp teeth, little like monster people. And they think they're the chosen ones, basically, of the Zen Sunni faith, which is the precursor to the Fremen and the major religion of the universe.
Holy smokes.
Just what do you even, how do you unpack this? You don't.
No. What you do is you reread it 19 times, and every 3 years you read it again.
That you
can get another layer and then forget.
Yeah, as you get older, as your memory gets worse, too, it's great to be like, I think I lost book 3. We're okay with that book 3.
Sean Crespo, it's been an hour.
Thanks for having me.
This has been fascinating, and I think I got to reread Dune now.
Yeah, please reread at least, if you do nothing else, read one of the prequels and one of the next book that you hadn't read, even if you reread the books you had read.
Okay.
Just to get some sense of the vastness. And I know the writing won't be like everybody's like, it's not Frank. It's like, of course it's not, but you're used to drinking from a pristine well. This one has you have to drink from this puddle. It's the only water. You can starve to death, starve of thirst, or you can drink some dirty water.
You can have some brackish.
Yeah, just skim the top.
At Sean Crespo, you guys go see him do stand-up comedy. Go to Lasers in the Jungle in New York City.
UCB East.
UCB East.
7:30 p.m. starting in February.
What day of the week?
Thursdays. Yeah, sorry. That would be helpful. Thursday, 7:30 p.m. A lot of fun peeps.
UCB East. It was a fun show. I did it. And you should go see it. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Next time you're in the city, give me a heads up and we'll have you on again, and maybe we can Carol and I can prepare a pork.
Oh, fair enough. That'll be lovely.
She's from Alabama.
Okay. Ooh, Alabama. Thanks for listening, folks. Take care of each other out there. Okay, bye.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?